Breakfast was still on the table. The captain's bed was made, his daughter's toys left where she had dropped them. Everything aboard was exactly where it should be, except the 10 people who lived there. They sailed into the Atlantic in 1872, and simply stepped out of the world. Her name is the Mary Celeste, an American merchant brig bound for Italy. She is fully rigged, riding the swells, very much alive. But something about the way she moves is wrong. Captain David Morehouse watches her through his glass for 2 full hours. She yaws, drifts, and turns, the way a ship does when no hand is on the wheel. He knew this ship. He knew her captain personally, they had dined together in New York only weeks before. And he knew that Benjamin Briggs was not a man to let his vessel wander. Morehouse signals her. No answer. He brings the Dei Grazia closer, close enough to see her decks. There is no one at the wheel. No one on watch. No one anywhere. He sends his first mate, Oliver Devoe, across in a small boat through the heavy swell. Devoe climbs aboard, calls out into the wind, and hears only the creak of rigging answering back. The Mary Celeste is completely deserted. And what Devoe is about to find below those decks will turn a simple salvage into one of the greatest mysteries the sea has ever kept. Below deck, the ship is eerily intact, like a home its family stepped out of moments ago and never returned to. There is no damage to speak of, no sign of fire, no sign of violence. The cargo sits untouched in the hold, 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, bound for Genoa, every one of them accounted for and worth a fortune. In the captain's cabin, Devoe finds the belongings of a family. Benjamin Briggs had sailed with his wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia Matilda. A child's toys lie where they were left. A sewing machine sits on the table. Sarah's small organ rests against the wall, sheet music still open above the keys. The crew's sea chests are still here. Their oilskin boots, their pipes, their razors, the irreplaceable things sailors never abandon, all left behind. There is a 6-month supply of food and fresh water in the stores, more than enough to reach Italy and back. Nobody aboard was starving. Nobody was dying of thirst. 10 people had been living on this ship, a captain, his wife, their little girl, and 7 crew. Now there was no one. As if the Atlantic had simply lifted them off the deck. Devoe and his men begin to search for clues, and what they find only deepens the riddle. The ship's single lifeboat, a small yawl that had been lashed across the main hatch, is gone. And it had not been torn away by a storm. The evidence suggests it was deliberately launched. Whoever left the Mary Celeste, left her on purpose. A length of rope is found trailing from the ship, frayed and worn, dragging in the water behind her, as though something, or someone, had once been tied to the end of it. The ship's navigation instruments are missing. The sextant, the chronometer, the marine clock, the tools a captain grabs first when he means to find his way across open water. The ship's papers are gone as well. All of them but one, the captain's logbook, left behind. Its final entry is dated November 25, 9 in the morning. That entry placed the Mary Celeste near the island of Santa Maria, in the Azores. But she was found 10 days later, drifting 400 miles past it, sailing on alone, for over a week, with no one aboard. There was some water sloshing between the decks, and the compass housing was damaged. But she was seaworthy. She could float, she could sail. There was no reason on earth to abandon her. The Dei Grazia put a skeleton crew aboard and sailed the Mary Celeste into Gibraltar to claim salvage. And there, the mystery took an uglier turn. The case fell to the Attorney General of Gibraltar, a sharp and suspicious man named Frederick Soliflad. He looked at an undamaged ship abandoned by 10 people, and he smelled a crime. He examined the vessel himself, searching for proof of foul play. On the rail, he found deep cuts in the wood. On a sword beneath the captain's bed, he found dark stains he was certain were blood. He built a theory: the crew of the Dei Grazia had murdered everyone aboard the Mary Celeste to claim her as salvage. Or her own sailors had mutinied, killed the family, and fled. But the science of the day betrayed him. The stains on the sword were tested. They were not blood. The marks on the hull were ordinary wear. There was no body, no weapon, no proof of any violence at all. After 3 months, the court could find no evidence of crime, but it refused to clear anyone's name. The Dei Grazia's men received only a fraction of the salvage, leaving a shadow of suspicion that never quite lifted. With no crime to explain it, the world turned to other answers. And the most accepted one begins in the cargo hold, with those 1,700 barrels of alcohol. 9 of the barrels, when finally unloaded in Genoa, were found completely empty. They had been made of red oak, a more porous wood, and the alcohol inside had likely leaked and evaporated into vapor. The theory goes like this. Fumes built up in the hold. A change in pressure, or a single spark, produced a sudden, violent rumble, a burst of vapor that blew a hatch open with a roar, but left no fire and no lasting damage. Captain Briggs, fearing his ship was about to explode beneath his family's feet, panicked. He ordered everyone into the lifeboat, and tied it to the Mary Celeste with that long rope, meaning to wait at a safe distance until the danger passed. But the danger never came. And the wind that had seemed to fade, returned. The Mary Celeste filled her sails and pulled away, and the rope, frayed and overstrained, snapped. 10 people, in an open boat, watched their ship sail off without them, into a rising Atlantic. No sail, no shelter, no way to catch her. The sea did the rest. It is a clean theory. But not a single shred of it was ever proven. Other answers crowded in to fill the silence. A waterspout that swept the deck. A seaquake from the ocean floor. Pirates, though pirates do not leave a fortune in cargo untouched. And then came the stranger ones. A giant squid. A ghostly madness. Even, in time, the Bermuda Triangle, though the Mary Celeste was found 1,000 miles from it. And remember that breakfast still on the table, that home its family seemed to step out of moments before. The truth is, much of what the world thinks it knows about this ship was never real. The meals still warm, the tea still steaming, the pipe still smoking, all of it was pure invention. It came from a short story written 12 years later by a young, unknown author named Arthur Conan Doyle, long before he created Sherlock Holmes. The public could not tell his fiction from the facts. The myth swallowed the case. The Mary Celeste herself sailed on for 13 more years under new owners, who never trusted her. In 1885, her final captain deliberately ran her onto a reef in an insurance fraud, and tried to burn her. Even then, she refused to sink. Which leaves the one question no theory has ever answered. 10 people, a captain who loved that ship, his wife, his little girl, and 7 able men, chose to leave a sound, floating vessel for a tiny open boat on the winter Atlantic. They were never seen again. What did they believe was about to happen? Tell me your theory in the comments. And the next file is already open.